Hey,
It's Vincent.
how's
What
it
is
going,
up, my
guys?
green friend?
It's good. How are you guys doing?
Good, good. We're
Good.
gonna get
Got,
comfortable.
yeah, no worries. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you
Okay.
hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Your lighting's phenomenal. It's way
Look
better
at
than
him.
mine. My
Right?
goodness.
He
You guys, it
said,
looks like you've almost done this before.
well, we've used Zoom a couple of times for a couple other podcasts, and
Once or
uh,
once or
and we're
twice.
doing this from our house, which has the best internet, but doesn't have the best coffee options. We're not at work, so
Sure.
I'm drinking black coffee. And man, I'm sorry, I missed the obvious opportunity to send you some coffee to enjoy from us during the interview. So I'm sorry. I'll do it.
Oh,
I'll follow up after this and send you some beans in the mail.
oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I have so one of the things that I've been really wanting to do, and I've been kind of pushing it off because of all the other content building stuff, is I've wanted to review beans. And what I used to teach, I used to teach a history of coffee course at my university, and it was so fun. What we would do is we would trace the migration of coffee commerce, starting with Ethiopia, bounce over to Yemen, head up to Turkey, split off to Indonesia. So we would, as we went through these different migration points through the history of coffee, we would stop, pour over coffee, and try
Yeah.
coffee from that region.
That's
Wow.
We had a blast.
The
And
evolution.
by the end of
of
the
the
2
coffee
hours,
trade.
everyone was full of jitters. And
Yeah. I
but it
love
was
that story
wonderful.
though, and I loved the PBS documentary on the history of coffee. That thing, I recommend anyone who really loves coffee to watch that.
Okay, PBS documentary.
Yeah, you can find it on
Okay.
YouTube. It's a 4-part series called The History of Coffee. Really put aside a whole daytime to enjoy it because it takes a while to get through the whole thing.
Does it really? Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it's a great documentary. It's really informative, and it talks the same journey and about the Dutch East India Trading Company and
Yes.
using
Yes.
coffee as a exotic spice and
Yes.
how that was like responsible for a lot of and I don't want to like bring in colonial imperial takeovers, but a lot of exploration of the rest of the world was based around coffee and other spices.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I will definitely look that up and dig into that.
Man, we're huge fans of yours, so just know that we're going to give you like the utmost respect and attention to this, and we review the questions, and they're great questions, and we've been in this kind of community for 6 years now, almost 6 years now,
6 years.
and we do things a little differently than the other cart people, and so we have some things that we can share to help like give them some info that maybe they didn't think about.
Mhm.
Yeah. Awesome. And yeah, I put questions out there to kind of give some general format, but I am not tied down to that in any way whatsoever at all. I mean, a lot of times the conversation steers left at Albuquerque, and that's where we go,
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're
So
just a couple Southern farts in a whirlwind, so there's no telling where we're going to take the topic.
so let's if it's all right with you guys, maybe we can just start off with introductions and just kind of just kind of go from there.
All right.
I'm Andrew Mrozkowski. My wife Ashley and I started pedaljava almost 6 years ago in Knoxville, Tennessee. The evolution of the business has changed tremendously since we began, but we found a nice little area that we operate in mobile coffee in the South.
Yes.
So you started off in Knoxville, Tennessee. Have you branched off anywhere else, or has it just been Knoxville?
Well, we do traveling events in different parts of the country. So before COVID, and I feel like every good story starts before COVID.
Right.
But before COVID, we would go from Pittsburgh to Atlanta, all along the East Coast, doing different traveling shows, such as Comic-Cons, sports tournaments, you name it, we did it. Since COVID, we've really kind of stuck in Knoxville, but we will be going back out again for sure.
So you had mentioned that you had started up, Northeast in you said like Pennsylvania. Is that what?
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Okay, Pittsburgh. And so was there a certain, was that like a festival migration, or what was it about Pittsburgh that drew you in that direction?
There is a Comic Con, and for
Okay.
those of you that don't know, it's a convention for fellow nerds, is the nice way I can put it. And
Yes.
yeah, us too.
Yes.
And it happened 3 times a year in
Okay.
Pittsburgh. It's called Steel City Con.
Okay.
And so when we were looking for shows and different venues to be able to travel to and to work out of, we found the show that happened 3 times a year. And we thought, oh, this is a great opportunity to expand, build a base in a different area. And if there's growth potential, there's other shows there we can do. So
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
kind of where it started. And then it branched down from there.
So you guys were like, okay, this is something that we enjoy doing. We like Comic-Con. So there, that looks like a good spot to start off. When you did your first show, how did that go?
Oh, it was a disaster. So we had served Comic Cons and other sports tournaments here in Knoxville, which is our
Okay.
home base. And the beauty and the benefit of working in a convention center where you're from is that if you need additional supplies, if you need support, if you need
Sure.
other baristas, you can call people or supplies.
Sure.
So we get in the van and we travel. It's about 8 hours to Pittsburgh to do this
Okay.
show.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
we bought one table thinking it would have enough room for all of our stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we did not read the fine print, and
Okay.
it was really like 6 foot by 4 foot where we were trying to put our entire setup and serve 10 or 20,000 people.
Okay.
It was a disaster.
Okay, so
But-
you get in and you're like, you talk to the event program manager and you're like, listen, this isn't going to work. What happened? What went from there?
Well,
We always adapt, man. That's one thing about mobile coffee is you can't, if you go in with just one plan and you don't have
Yeah.
a backup or anything you can do, you are really in a pickle. So
Yeah.
as mobile coffee purveyors, we have to have a backup contingency plan.
Yeah.
We squeezed things together. We eliminated things from our setup. We reduced parts of our menu. We got in there and met people knowing full well that the first time an event, you may just break even.
Sure.
So that was
sure.
our goal, to
Okay.
get in there and break even, to pay for our costs and hotel expenses and travel expenses
Yeah.
up to a new market. And we ended up making a little bit of money, enough so that we could pay for the a bigger location in the building next year or at the next event, and came back 3 months later and just destroyed it. And we sort of tweaked our methods every time
Yeah.
to where we just about have it perfected now. We know
Okay.
where to get ice close
Yeah.
to the venue.
Okay.
We know where to get milk close to the venue.
Okay.
We know that we know how much coffee we need to bring. We know how
Yeah.
many syrups and toppings we need to bring. And then if that doesn't work out, we've got backups.
Yeah. Okay. So the first step was like, let's just prioritize and execute. Let's find out what we need to do, shift gears so that we're focused on what we can kind of move forward with.
mhm.
And then, so you did the event. Were you just selling like cups of coffee, like, like fraps or something, or what?
That's
what,
it.
what were, okay. And were you doing samples, or how did you sell the cups? Because if you're doing Comic-Con, there's probably other vendors out there, I imagine.
There are.
And so
but coffee vendors are very rare at these kind of
Really?
events.
really,
Yeah, so we found even in our local markets that the mobile coffee was underserved.
okay,
And our background in the mobile coffee business actually goes back to when we were planning our wedding.
really,
We had always loved coffee. It's
Yes,
something that
okay.
we met over and something that we've always enjoyed. And we found that when we met, we were able to like bond over that, and then got together on coffee dates and coffee shops. I've always loved cycling. we decided to get married. We had so much in common and so much love, Vincent, that we started planning our wedding, and we decided we'd love to have a coffee bar at the wedding. Seems like a simple request, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And in our part of East Tennessee, there was nothing like that at all. I mean, you could get an ice cream bar, you could get a nacho bar, you could get
a grilled cheese bar,
anything
really.
you wanted, macaroni and cheese bar. But coffee bar was
Coffee.
not. I mean, you could get a trailer or a truck.
Yes.
But to have someone cater an event
inside
in a smaller scale,
yes,
we decided once we were done marriage, once we were done with the wedding, we would start a mobile coffee business to try it out. We were both technology workers with 15, 20-year careers behind us.
Okay.
And decided, let's do something on the weekends that we could do for fun. A little coffee cart that'll serve weddings and private events, and we'll price it like a catering service.
Okay.
And we'll dress up. It'll be a little vintage style with a great menu of locally roasted coffee with local dairy milk.
And a Southern twist.
And a Southern twist. And it worked great.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I would say within like 2 months of us starting, we reached out to the convention center here locally and said, hey, we noticed you don't have any kind of specialty coffee at all. None.
Yeah.
We'd love to come have a meeting with you, maybe serve some events. And from there, it just took off.
How was that initial, when you first reach out to them and you're like, hey, we do coffee? How did that conversation go?
The honest truth is, I wrote the director of food and beverage at the event center.
Yes. Like the catering manager?
Sometimes that position would be called a catering manager.
Okay.
But with these big event centers that we serve, they're split a couple of different ways.
Okay.
There are 2 large multinational companies that manage food and beverages for most of those big convention centers.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And in our city, in other cities, the city might own the building.
Right.
But they don't know anything about putting on giant events.
Sure.
So they bring in a company from Chicago or a company from New York or Los Angeles to manage these event buildings.
Okay.
And that's the way it is in our town, and that's the way it is in most towns.
Interesting.
So we approached our local director of food and beverage at the event center, who works for the giant multinational company. She's a local expert. She's been in the business for 30 years. She knows everything about food and beverage at events.
How'd you get a hold of it? Was it just like on the website, or like how?
Yeah.
Okay, just right there.
In a town of about 500,000 people.
Sure. Okay.
And it's small enough to where I know people who know people.
Okay.
And it turns out that this person was not only a coffee lover, which number one is you gotta find someone who understands specialty coffee.
Yeah.
Because if they're not a coffee drinker, you will never be able to convince them the importance of having specialty coffee in their center.
For their guests. Absolutely.
Sure.
50% of their guests at those events want specialty coffee.
Yeah.
And if they don't have it, they go to Starbucks. They go somewhere else.
Sure.
If you can keep them in their building, then you keep the guests happy and you keep your events happy.
Yeah.
So this lady took just great pity on me, I think, and brought me in for a meeting, made sure we had all of our insurance up to date, made sure we had permitting and licensing up to date.
Yeah.
And then basically said, what are you doing next weekend? Would you like to come serve a gymnastics tournament? And that tournament was 6 years ago, almost 6 years ago in April.
Yeah, I've done a few gymnastic tournaments, and those things they're little gold mines. Yeah.
Listen, girls athletics. That's our sweet spot.
Okay.
We love gymnastics, volleyball, basketball, cheerleading, you name it. If it's girls athletics, it's full of female athletes
Yes.
and their moms
And their moms.
and their aunts
Yeah.
and their grandmas
That's right.
and the post lady and the preacher, but he doesn't come on Sunday because he's preaching. I mean, they bring whole families full of people to support these young athletes, and they drink a lot of coffee.
They
man.
do. Yes, I know that one. Yes, yes. So when so when you talk to the catering manager or you
Food and
used a
beverage
different
director.
term. What was the term you guys used for her position?
Her title is the Director of Food and Beverage.
Director of Food and Bev.
A lot of times, Vincent, they just call this FNB.
FNB.
Ampersand B, food and
Okay.
beverage.
Okay.
And the exception to this rule is sometimes they hire out catering companies to manage
Sure.
their event centers. The smaller ones will use a local or regional catering company.
Okay.
And those are not always as willing to work with you,
Right.
because a good catering company is also a good business.
Sure.
And if they realize there's money to be made in specialty coffee, next year they'll have their own there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So the
sure.
big international companies were willing to work with us, and we immediately established contracts with them that renew every year.
Okay.
And basically say we can work in any of their buildings as long as their food and beverage director locally agrees to it.
So do you have to apply for temporary permits if you're moving to another city? Is that kind of what you're doing? Okay.
Well, it depends. In cities like Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, that we work frequently, we will have long-standing yearly permits there. But in other areas, we do a 2-day or 3-day permit. It's temporary. They take a look at our documentation from our home county.
Yeah.
They may do a physical inspection. They may not. And frequently, just for a little cash, will give us a couple of day permit to operate and sell our drinks.
Okay. Gotcha. And just take a second for anyone that may be watching this and they might be like kind of brand new and not quite understand the difference between the temporary permits and kind of the yearly permits. The annual permit, they're a little in my experience, and you guys fill me in if you've seen something different. I think you have probably a little bit more experience in this category, but in my experience, the annual permits have been a little bit more anal retentive with like things like hand washing sinks and triple sinks and making sure everything's real tight for the full year. My experience with temporary permits are like, can you wash your hands? Can you wash your utensils? You know, do you have a trash can? And kind of like more general, is your food going to be safe? And can you keep yourself clean during the shift? A little bit, I've experienced a little bit more laxy-daisy permitting with the temp permits than I have with the annual permits. And then on my end, the temp permits have only been for like 24, 48, and 72. And occasionally I'll run into a 7-dayer, but most of the time it's like the weekend or something. Is that kind of what you guys, what's
the
been
other
your
side
experience?
of the country, it's exactly the same. You nailed it. That's the way it works. They are a little more loose. For example, they want our commissary kitchen to, of course, have a 3-bay sink. But if you read the fine print on some of these temporary permits, they're like, can you provide 3 buckets? A wash bucket, a rinse bucket, and a sanitized bucket. And I'm like, really? That is good enough? Well, in a 24-hour setting, they say that is. They don't want you to use, there are some things that are a little more detailed. Like some of the temporary permits will say things like, you can only use a set of dishes for no more than 4 hours. Some
that's
of them
interesting.
say you can use a set of dishes for 8 hours.
Okay.
We, of course, as mobile, we use the same things y'all do. We use spoons, we use milk pots, we use ice scoops, we use blenders. All of these things have to be cleaned after a certain amount of time.
Sure.
So generally we carry an extra set of dishes. Swap them out after 4 or 8 hours. Keep going if you can.
Okay, gotcha. And so being under the umbrella of this kind of national, international company, it then gives you an in on other locales.
It does.
Exactly.
Okay.
And another advantage in working with those venues directly, and this is something that relates to the permitting issue as well. We have business licenses in these areas, but when we operate in their venue, Vincent, we're working in their kitchen. Okay, that's an
Okay.
important distinction to make to those local health departments and inspections agencies. Is as long as their kitchen is inspected and their kitchen is approved and up to date, when we work in their facility, we are working under their inspection. So a lot of times when I say they don't come in and inspect us when we get there, it's because they've inspected the venue's kitchen.
I see. So
And
you're an
and we are
extension.
Right.
Okay.
So whether we're storing perishables in their walk-in cooler or using their dishwasher to wash our dishes at the end of the night,
Yeah.
or just sharing a physical space with them, it operates under their jurisdiction. So we're under the jurisdiction of the kitchen we're working in, and that goes for the big companies that manage these.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. I've experienced similar stuff on some of the festivals. They'll have like a
Mhm.
kind of a communal commercial kitchen that we all kind of use, or they'll set up like a big trailer refrigerator and then we'll all kind of use that. People will come along and steal your milk and that type of thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
that Vince, it sounds like you've done some events. I just want to talk to you about the stories you've seen. Like big music festivals is something we don't do. And we've toyed with the idea. We tickled the water with our toes a couple of times,
Yeah.
but I can only imagine. We have a giant festival here in Tennessee called Bonnaroo. And a lot of people
Bonnaroo.
haven't
Okay.
heard of it, but it is one of the biggest music festivals in the South. It takes place over a whole week in Manchester, Tennessee, just about an hour and a half, 2 hours from here.
Wow.
And
Okay.
it is it's a massive thing.
100,000 people. I
Yeah.
think.
100,000
Frothy
people.
Monkey out of Nashville handles their coffee for that event, though. But we were asked at one point. The company that manages that festival is based here in our town in Knoxville,
Okay.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
And we were asked, would we consider doing the Bonnaroo Music Festival? We turned it down, but I bet there's some wild stories about doing coffee at a music festival.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I just, gosh, I did the Rolling Stone. The only experience I have is a festival called Desert Trip. And it was a 12, so it was 2 weekends, and there was 3 days the first weekend and 3 days on the second weekend. So you had a couple days in between to kind of gather your pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a big festival. When I got the phone call, and the gal was like, "We're wondering if you'll come out to California and set up." And I was like, "Okay, well, maybe, why don't you send me the information and I'll take a look." So she sends it to me, and it was, it was Paul McCartney, the Rolling Stones, The Who, Bob Dylan, Pink Floyd, and there's one other, I can't remember it, Neil Young. So yeah, that was who. So it was The Who opened for Paul McCartney. No, Dylan opened for McCartney. The Who opened for the Stones, and then Young opened for Floyd. And I remember looking at it, and it was October 7th, 8th, 9th, and then like 13th, 14th, 15th, something like that. The problem was that's also the time of Albuquerque's Balloon Fiesta. And we have an influx of 100,000 that come into the city for that. And I mean, it's an early morning event with a hard start time, like all the good stuff that you need to make a lot of money.
Yep.
And so it was like, I was sitting on it and I was like, I don't know. I didn't feel good about going out to California and swiping credit cards and trying to make money like in a food court, because I could do that exact same thing here in Albuquerque,
Right.
for a fraction of the cost. And so I wrote the lady back. I wrote her back and I said, no. I told her no.
Wow.
And she was like, "Are you sure we'll pay you?" And so what I did is I looked at my prior year's numbers, ran the numbers and projected my profit. And then I tripled it and sent her the bill. And I think the bill was like, I think my first offer was like 21 grand is what I wanted out of the gate. And I think she countered at 12. And I think we settled at 15.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll go out for 15.
Make it work.
And her thing was she wanted me to set up in the VIP section and just hand out free coffee. I had a little green camper, and so I had an aesthetic appeal. That's really what she was selling, was a vibe. So we loaded the trailer onto a U-Haul flatbed. I remember that night was interesting. That was very difficult to do. And so we loaded it on because I didn't want to risk like breaking an axle, flat tire. You know, I only had one axle, 2 tires on that thing, and I didn't want to drive it across California somewhere in Winslow, you know, break down, you know. So I was like, well, let's load it onto a flatbed and we'll tow it out there. And so that's what I did. And I packed it full of cups. I was expecting 2,000 cups. That's what I guaranteed her. I would say, okay, I'll give you 2,000 hots and 2,000 colds at a 16 ounce. That was what she paid for. And I think I would go around in the beginning of the shift to all the vendors. I was part of a VIP food court. There was a bunch of food trucks out there, a bunch from LA, 2 other coffee trucks. And I would go out with this big waiter disco, you know, and I would hand out coffee to all the vendors because I maybe gave out 200 cups throughout an entire weekend. And I was like chasing people down, trying to hand coffee out, like take my coffee, because I had so much product. I was expecting 2,000 cups. And
what happened at Bloom Festival? I got to know what happened at Bloom Festival.
The balloons?
Yeah. So I let the Balloon Fiesta go that year.
Yeah.
And I just focused on that festival. Yeah. I let the Balloon Fiesta go that year.
We would have taken both.
They were the same weekend. We would have found a way to do both. Yeah, they were, you know, but you guys have multiple. I only had one, and you know, I
would have painted another trailer in a week, painted it green. I'd paint a cool beard on a barista and give him a cool cap and say, "This is Vincent."
Hi, I'm Vince. Yeah, I mean that's that was my only experience. It was a wonderful experience, but you know, we didn't sell to the general population, which turned out to be a blessing because you're part of the VIP section, you also get VIP wristbands. Right. Which meant like because there was 100,000 people there, we were deep into the stage, which was awesome. So it was
good. You drank good. You saw the best music in the world.
We did, and because we went around and handed coffee out to all those food trucks in the beginning, we didn't pay for food, not one dime. Anything we wanted at that food truck court, we got to have, you know. So
sounds like a one-time score.
Yes.
That was a one-time score though.
That's that was so that was the only experience at a large music festival that I've had. So I've had limited experience there, you know, to be straightforward, but the experience I had was wonderful. Yeah, it was wonderful. Yeah. I've done some football games and I've done some big venues since, just not concerts. My concert here, the concert venue that I have here is on lock. They're owned by a national company. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if it's probably the same company, you know.
Probably so.
But yeah, but we haven't, we tried to give it a crack a couple times and haven't been able to break into our concert venue. So you guys have been invited out to this big concert venue, but there's another one there. There's another coffee vendor there.
Yeah, we passed on it.
Okay.
And they ended up using Frothy Monkey out of Nashville, an awesome coffee shop, several coffee shops. around the Nashville, Tennessee area.
Mhm.
And I'm sure
Okay.
that Frothy Monkey does a great job. They run a great show.
Mhm.
Do they? Okay. Were they a coffee truck first, or are they
Cafe.
their
Only
cafe?
cafe.
Okay. And so
They
they set up
up
like
some tents. They
okay.
moved in some machines and some big generators and found a
Yeah.
way to make it work.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Well, good for them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Kudos to them. So let me backtrack a few steps. So you folks got started in the bike industry, and you wanted the bike because of a passion for bicycles, or what was the draw to the bike?
No, I mean, yes and no. We both love the outdoors, and we live in one of the most beautiful places in the world here that's full of cycling and full of other outdoor things. But the bottom line for choosing the bike format was financial.
Okay. Was it less expensive, or what was
Yeah,
Yeah.
way
as
less
opposed?
expensive. Neither of us had a background in food or beverage.
Okay.
We're both tech workers.
Okay.
And I worked for 20 years in the electric utility industry. She worked for 15 years in the cell phone industry.
Okay.
And when we met and when we married, we were tech workers.
Mhm.
Okay.
And only after we started this business did we have any experience in food or beverage whatsoever. So
Yeah.
we
Okay.
learned it from the ground up, and we're both coffee lovers and both home baristas and both outdoors people. But no, it was all about saving money. It was something I thought I could do. I'm a little handy with tools.
Okay.
I had the know-how. Um, was willing to make some mistakes along the way.
Sure. Yeah.
So I built the first one myself.
Did
Mhm.
you really?
Yeah, I built all of them.
He
So
does.
where? Okay. So we decided. Okay, we're going to do a bike instead of a truck or a trailer, right?
Mhm.
Why
Yep.
the bike over a cart? What was the draw to the bike between that and kind of a traditional table cart?
Yeah, well, it's a little of both.
Okay.
The very first iteration is actually a small trailer that pulls behind a bike. Okay,
Ah,
so it is like a cart, but the bike is used to move it around downtown Knoxville.
I
Okay,
see.
so here's the
Okay.
plan. I wanted the company to be called Handlebar Coffee.
Okay.
I wear a handlebar mustache.
Yeah,
The bicycles have a handlebar,
that's right. Yeah.
and we serve coffee. Seems someone had already taken that name.
Okay.
So, uh, not being the incredibly creative person, I just twisted it a little bit
Okay.
and said pedaljava. It's a pedal powered, it's a pedal transported cafe.
Yeah.
We call it a micro cafe. And the very first one just did hot drinks only.
Oh,
Mhm.
really?
A combination of pour over and AeroPress and mocha pot, just basically manual extraction methods.
Okay. And how were you
And
heating? Were you heating with like propane, or did you
yeah,
heat
we
off
have
of?
each of them have a small propane stove. It's actually a multi-fuel stove that we use now.
Okay.
But originally, yeah, it was liquid propane.
Okay.
And we use the small little green
Yeah.
canisters,
The ones you can refill or
okay?
whatever.
Yeah, you can't legally refill them.
Oh, really?
No,
Good.
not legally.
Good to know. Okay.
It says it on the label. They can't legally be refilled.
Okay. Roger that.
But to make a long story short, the idea was it was street side coffee.
Mhm.
It was one guy, one crazy guy with a mustache and a bike. She supported me, but she kept her job, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I
Sure.
didn't know.
Sure.
She wasn't going to take any big risks. As it turned out, that was probably a smart decision because street side coffee in a city our size just can't support even a single one person household, much less two and a dog and a cat.
Really?
So I had to retool.
Let
And
me
that's
dig
when
in.
I started looking for
Can I
events.
dig into that? I want to dig into that just because that's a nugget
Yeah.
right there. So when you first started, were you doing like downtown, or what was the what was the beginning?
4 days a week,
4 days a week.
I would pedal from the van, which was parked right outside. At the time, it was my little SUV.
Okay.
And I designed the cart so the wheels would pop off and the cart would slide in the back of the SUV. and
Okay.
that's where it lived at night. And
Got
then
it.
I would drive it into downtown, but park right outside of downtown
Yes.
where no one was watching.
Okay.
And I'd unload it out of this SUV, take the bike off the rack, hook it up, and pedal it downtown.
Okay.
Okay. I made it look like I was pedaling from
You've been doing this for
15 miles
yeah.
away, but it was really like 3/4 of a mile. Yeah, like down to myself with sweat.
What?
And then I would set it up, and from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., 4 days a week, weekdays, I would serve what I thought was a market with business people downtown.
Okay.
Which even in a city of 500,000 people is a very small market. Okay. There's some people who live downtown. There's some people who work downtown, but most people in our county do not live and work downtown.
Okay.
Even though we have a vibrant, wonderful downtown. So, I was making like 50, 60 bucks a day, man. It was like rough.
Yeah.
Rough.
Okay.
I was doing it in some cold mornings, and I was fighting a lot of challenges, and it was very discouraging.
Sure.
Very depressing. And it was in that worry and concern for a business failing, my first entrepreneurial venture failing, that we started reaching out at her suggestion to event venues. But it wasn't even like it is now. Here was the plan. She convinced me wisely to ask if we could serve on the sidewalk in front of their venue. Not even come inside.
Sure.
Just use our existing thing to serve as their crowds were coming in and out.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
They said no. No. But, and this was the woman who helped me so much. She said, it's an interesting idea, and I love seeing people start up interesting ideas. Come meet with me. The very worst thing that'll happen is I'll give you some advice on how you can make it better. And she did, for free. The best thing that can happen is you've got all your paperwork in order, and I'll put you in an event and see just how badly you do. And Vincent, boy, I did badly. That first event, I showed up with like 4 gallons of milk, a couple of pounds of coffee. Sure. And she took one look at me and she said, in her most Southern way of saying, bless your heart, she said, oh, honey, no. You're going to need more than this. There were about 4,000 people at this event.
Wow.
And it took place over 2 days.
Okay.
And within hours of it opening, I was calling her. Can you bring me more coffee? Can you get me more milk? Can you find me more chocolate? Can you find me more vanilla? I'm in a crisis over this. A couple hours later, it was another crisis over something else. So it was getting baptized by fire, and then having 5 days to recover and plan the next one, which happened the next weekend and the next weekend. And within a year, we were doing 60, 70 events a year. We had multiple carts. We were splitting teams. Mrs. Pedaljava carries a team to one venue. I'm sorry, I just hit her right on the vaccine spot.
I
know. We got our vaccines yesterday, and it's a little tender. She'd take one team to one venue. I'd take another team to another venue. And we just kept growing it, adding more carts, hiring more local baristas who knew cafe work. Yeah. And who could be trained to do mobile cafe work.
So you at this point, you kind of transitioned from working the show to being more of a distributor, like kind of a distribution point and planting little beacons of coffee. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We transitioned from one cart, one person, one really long line for coffee to 3 or 4 distribution points through the event center where people could stop and get coffee from either him or me or one of our 8 other baristas.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's in one venue and I'm in another venue, and it just grew and grew and grew.
Gotcha. Okay. So all right. So just kind of taking a step back, So you went downtown. Let me ask a question on that. So what was it about the downtown thing that drew you in the first place? What was it that you were like, I think I could do something here? What was the draw to it, to the downtown scene?
It's the biggest concentration of people in our
Okay.
city
Okay. So
was downtown.
you
And
saw
I knew I
funnel
didn't want
points.
a cafe, even in a long-term sense.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people who start out in the cart mafia
Yeah.
and they say, well, this is what I'm going to do until I can afford my cafe.
Sure.
And I dig that. Or this is what I'm going to do until I can afford my truck. I
Sure.
dig that. But that was never our plan.
No.
And
Okay.
it's still not our plan. We don't want a truck. We don't want a trailer. We don't want a cafe.
Your Java, your pedal Java.
That's it.
That's what we're sticking
They are
to.
modular. Each cart, each bike can serve up to X number of people.
Right.
And
Okay.
so for bigger events, we just add more bikes. We add more carts.
Okay.
And
Okay.
they tie up in a row. And it's like a coffee bike pulling little trailers behind it.
That's cool.
It's like a little coffee sleigh.
A little cart caravan. Is it a little?
It's amazing. Yeah. And they share equipment in between. For example, they have a flavor station in between the setups. So they share the pumps.
Okay.
We have a blender bank behind. They share the blender bank.
Oh,
So
sure.
we share equipment, but each station has espresso, steamed milk, water, hot water,
Cold brew.
cold brew, all available to them right at their station. But for preparing drinks and serving customers, they take the next one in line.
I see.
So we form one line in and one line out, and the next barista available will take the next customer in line.
I see.
And you got to watch our time-lapse videos on pedaljava and Mrs. Pedaljava. I'm sure Vince will tag them below.
Yeah.
But there's these time lapses where you can see literally 2,000 people come through our stations within a 4-hour time period and get a scope of what it is we do. Whatever city we're in, we're the busiest coffee shop in that city on that day.
Yeah.
Wow. So what was the deciding point on growing? There was a moment where you're like, okay, we've transitioned from the downtown to the convention. We're seeing progress in the convention. Probably kind of one of those moments of relief. I think this is going to work.
Yes.
How do we deal with this? How do we deal with this? And what was that moment where like, I think we need more?
Oh, I remember.
I'm going to let her explain this, and I'm going to go get a fresh cup of coffee. This is a great story.
Okay.
Listen up, folks. This is a great story. I'll be right back.
So we were probably 6 months into working conventions.
Okay.
And I would say he was working maybe every other weekend, maybe. And there was an event that came up, and the director of food and beverage called and said, this is a huge event. 20,000 kids, all kids.
Okay.
And it's an event called Destination Imagination. And
I know that event. Yes.
Yeah. It's like a smart kids convention.
Yeah.
And she said, you're going to need another cart. You're going to need something. Well, I'm so greedy. I didn't want anybody else to touch our money. Okay. I was like, I don't want people touching our money. So I'll take off from my job and I'll help you. So he built, in the span of 2 weeks, built a second cart. And, we go into it together and think, oh, we can, let's do this together. And I think we had 40 people in line nonstop from the moment we opened until the moment we closed for 4 days in a row.
True.
And no breaks. No, like I would realize, oh, I've been standing here for 12 hours and haven't gone to the bathroom. That level of crazy.
Wow.
And I think it was at that moment I said, okay, I think I should quit my job. Like, I really think there's something here.
I think the feeling was, if we could do 10 of these a year,
yes.
If we could find 10 events that were this big, we would only have to work 10 events a year. Okay.
Yes.
That was the original thought. And that was enough for her to start planning an exit date from her job. And by that point, I had like gone full time. I was all in. Events, coffee. I'm going to make this work. But it was another year after that before she put in her notice. And it was mainly because her job valued her so much, they wouldn't let her go. They kept giving her more promotions and more money, and she kept working with it. And she eventually gave them a 2-month notice, right, Vincent? Like, 2 months, I'm leaving for good. You can't talk me out of it. And we never did find those 10 events, is the funny part. And I don't want people to get unreasonable expectations from this. 6 years later, we're still looking for those 10 events.
Yeah.
And COVID really destroyed those 10 events.
Sure.
Like, where are they now? But no, we do repeating events. They come back every year to these venues. That we sell more coffee every year we do them.
Yeah.
We have to bring more supplies every year.
Okay.
Because we're providing a great, delicious cup of whatever they want and great customer service and the kind of like immediate one-on-one customer interaction that you can't get, no offense, at a truck.
Sure. Absolutely. I absolutely agree.
There's
There's
no
an
wall.
intimacy to a cart that you don't, that the truck just can't do. I 100% agree with that. The cart, we did carts. I've had 2 carts, one at a farmer's market and another one that we towed around. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's so intimate. You can talk to people. They're right there in front of you. Versus the truck, you kind of have this barrier and it's almost like an assembly line. It's a little bit more like, yeah. Thank you so much. Go wait over there. Next, so yeah, absolutely. I can see exactly what you're talking about. You guys have a real interesting story because, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I interrupted. We carry the customer from the greeting all the way through to the very last step, which is the money. We do things out of order too. We greet them and we talk about what they want, and then we give them their coffee, and then finally we settle up on the money.
Oh, that's interesting. Why? How did that come about? That process of,
we didn't know better.
Yeah. And now we just like the personalization of it, especially when baristas are working, everyone has their own tip cup. So you're motivated as a barista, not only to give good customer service because it's the right thing to do, but you are responsible for that tip. There's no tip sharing.
We don't share tips.
No.
Sure.
Get it.
What a beautiful way to do it. I mean, that's kind of the best of both worlds, isn't it? It's like it ensures that a good product is getting out, but it also ensures that there's good customer service as well. Good for you guys. What a really good way to do that. I like the story that you started off as
you keep nudging me. I keep interrupting. We outgrew the cart setup. Like what people imagine to be a typical coffee cart business is so much tinier than what we do. To the customer, it appears like a tiny cart business, but there are so many parts of the machine. It really takes full-time, both of us managing supplies, inventory, staffing, repairs, so many things to make it appear that it's a tiny little single happy vintage coffee cart.
Sure. There's a lot of moving parts going on behind the background.
So how much do you want to know about the moving parts?
Well, tell me about quarantine kits.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a cool story.
This is a good story too.
Okay.
So this coming up weekend.
It's the anniversary of this story.
So this coming up weekend, we were going to an event in Sevierville,
Tennessee,
which is like 45 minutes away from Knoxville.
Think Dolly Parton.
And we were in the van, and this is a 4-cart, 4-barista show. It's about 5,000 cheerleaders.
Big one.
Okay.
So we were loading in, and we took all the carts up, and then we went to our local dairy farm to get milk, 60 gallons of milk in the back of the van. And we're pulling back up, and literally there's someone on the dock that works at the convention center doing this right here. And we're like, what? Turn around. What are you talking about? And they were like, no, the show is canceled. You take your stuff and get out, basically. And so I had this kind of OS moment of like, what are we going to do? We have literally 60 gallons of milk. We had, I want to say it was about 60 gallons of cold brew coffee.
Sure.
Pre-brewed, probably another 100 pounds between drip coffee and espresso. Pre-roasted. We had so much money in supplies. And
expiring product, right?
Yes.
You see it. Yeah. My money is now ticking. I now have a ticking time bomb on my money. Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah.
So we came up with the idea. We got back home and we cried. Well, I cried. I was emotional. I'm like, what are we going to do? And we came up with this idea to pre-package the things that we were going to use at this cheerleading competition and sell quarantine kits for $49 locally to anybody in Knox County from our website, and that we would deliver for free. And that would keep the product from expiring. Maybe we'd make a little bit of money on it. Yeah. And then we could think about our next step, because this coronavirus thing was going to be over in 2 weeks anyway, right? 2 weeks. It's going to be gone a year later. Here we are. But side note. So that's what we did is we packaged up like one type of syrup, whipped cream, a bag of coffee, then sauces.
Cold brew, mason jars.
Okay.
Yes.
Milk, everything we could get them for money. We had to do it.
We did it.
We had to convert this stock into cash.
Yeah. And so we used we have a warehouse where we store, because our cart business has grown so much.
Sure.
Where we're storing our carts and whatnot. So we use that warehouse space to package these things. And then the next day went out on deliveries. And I probably ended up donating some of the milk to our homeless shelters locally.
Sure.
But by goodness, we sold all of that product.
Did you really?
Was supposed to go to that cheerleading event. And it gave us an idea that, hey, while people are at home, they're inside, we really need to utilize local delivery and taking our products to them, because nobody can get out. And that was the first step to saving our butts, really, through quarantine.
She had so many good ideas that just came one after the other. The first was, let's package all this stuff into kits, deliver it locally for free. The second was, we got to get on social media almost 24/7 and start cranking out content. She says, I want a little cooking show on YouTube. I want to do short video TikToks. I want to do, I need to get lights. I need microphones. We need to have some equipment so we can make quality social media posts. And she blew up. I'm not sure if y'all are watching this girl on TikTok, but 90,000 other people watch her every day, making coffee recipes, ordering supplies from social media because they're watching her make these coffees.
Wow.
She's become the star of the social media side of the business because she has the looks and the personality and the Southern sass. Kind of bless your heart and kiss my grits. But she's had a bunch of ideas that made this thing work. And by the grace of God and her good smarts, we were able to convert all those ideas into money that helped us pay the bills and get through this time where there were no events at all, which came out to about 11 months total.
Wow.
No events at all.
Wow.
Other than a very, once a wedding, once in a while, very small, socially distant, tiny little weddings. But no sports. No conventions, no Comic-Cons, everything was canceled in our world. So it only recently started back up. And we're tickled. We're tickled about that.
Well,
except in the arm where we got the vaccine. Because we serve a lot of people. And we want to remind people who are in event coffee and deal with a lot of people, y'all, it's important to get this vaccine. This ain't a political statement. It has nothing to do with you or me. It
Sure.
just means we serve a lot of people.
Yeah.
Sure.
And not
Sure.
only can those people get you sick, but you could possibly be getting them sick too.
Sure. Sure. Well, I mean, you're talking to an old paramedic, right? Like for me,
I
vaccines
forgot.
are, yeah, I
Yeah,
spent
you
7
were a
years on the
paramedic.
truck and I worked the streets during H1N1. And so it was
Wow.
kind of I mean, it wasn't nearly compared to what this was, but still we saw a lot of people, we lost a lot of people to H1N1 because of just the sheer length of contagious, how long people would remain contagious. They would, the sickness itself would be 3 weeks, but then you had a week before and a week after. So you had 5 weeks of spreading. And, if anything at all, it would just shorten that period. So, on my end, we did a lot of vaccines during the time. So, I mean, this is a really interesting pivot. So, I mean, I've seen multiple pivots in your business so far where you guys have adapted to the environment. And it sounds like you're really good at reading what's on the wall and making changes based upon your environment and what you're seeing. And I applaud you for that. That's magnificent. This pivot is interesting because you've pivot from a point of kind of convention sports to almost online retail. And I'm wondering if the online retail will remain kind of subscription based or, keep a following when the convention comes back up. Because then at that point, you now have two business models.
Yeah.
So there's this idea of a synergy that can occur because here, all this time when you're doing the conventions and you're in front of 20,000 people, those 20,000 people are also potential subscribers. So
Yeah, we learned that in the last few weeks.
Oh my goodness.
And Vincent, I want to thank you for so eloquently summing up the things that keep us up late at night. You managed to say that so eloquently. But yeah, we're scared as all dookie because we have built a separate business and it was something that we planned to do for a long time, but we had like a 5-year plan to grow that business. We ended up doing it in 5 months or less.
Yeah.
And now we're at the point where we have to hire to handle it. We really are our next move, other than more baristas as events come back, is a warehouse or a fulfillment manager. We're talking about calling it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Where they basically just work on distribution and shipping, that type of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good for
And
you.
we've already brought another great idea she had. Ashley, Mrs. Pedaljava online.
Okay. Well,
She's the brains. Okay.
One more time.
I gotta follow her.
One more time.
It's at Mrs. Pedaljava. MRSPEDALJAVA. Mrs. Pedaljava said, "Look, we got to
We got to get stuff off our plate.
Yeah, we
got really what it comes
we got to
down
have
to.
our baristas doing some social media posts.
Yeah.
And bring in their personalities.
Yeah.
And show people the folks who work for us, who entertain us. And now they can entertain our social media audience and sort of just diversify that. We've built that part on the two of us and our personalities. And we're opening that up to some of our folks who work with us too. And that's been really nice to have them take over some of the social media stuff.
Now that's
as
interesting.
well as talk about having a shipping and a warehouse manager.
Well,
Sure.
you have to think about it from a cart perspective. When you take the wall down and you're serving someone and you get that really personable experience, we all play on each other. So he'll be at a different cart making a drink and I will be harassing him endlessly, like just really teasing him, or another barista, like we're laughing, we're having a good time. And so each of us, I think, are entertaining, but pedaljava is the aesthetic of all of us working together and lifting each other up and being silly when there's 100 people in line. And a lot of that is make or break. Oh my gosh, I have 100 people waiting for coffee. But to still see a group of people laughing and having a good time and enjoying what they do, as a consumer, you want to continue to support that business,
See
right?
that relationship. Bro.
Yeah. And so we really want to show our baristas online as well, and continue to grow our business on the social side as well.
Sure. Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. Social media has been, by golly, the biggest weakness in my chain. I've always
What?
struggled with it. Yeah. Oh.
And you do it so well.
I mean, for me, it's been a struggle. It really has. It's been this kind of, and part of me, and at this point, like, all my Instagram and my Facebook are all managed by someone else, because I'm just terrible with it. I go, okay, you guys deal with it. I'm not good with it. So the idea that you're kind of taking this and giving it to your community and saying, okay, let's get your personalities in this. Let's involve you guys as well. I think that's a really smart part on your half. I think that's really smart. So are you guys picking up some convention? Is your city starting to open now, or where are you guys? Okay, so you're like at a kind of 25% or something, or
something like that. We had typically January to March is our busiest time of the year, because sports conventions, you have both cheerleading and volleyball in like their height season. And then you have kind of the national level of gymnastics meets. So you have all three of these kind of playing at a really high level. So we've had volleyball come back, and we've had 7 volleyball tournaments that we've done in 2021.
Which is great.
Yes.
That's great.
So I would say year over year, our events are probably down 70%, like where they should be.
Sure.
But I expected to have nothing in 2021 so far. So I'm very happy.
Yeah. And we have some events still canceling for this year.
Sure.
And we have some events still rescheduling for later on in 2021.
Sure.
But overall, we see an increase in the event world. We see it coming back.
Yeah.
And if we all do our part and stay safe, then we can really start to open this thing back up again.
Sure.
But sports is the first to come back, and we knew sports would come back first. Because America,
Yeah.
we got to have our sports.
That's right.
And a lot of these are like club type.
These are
sports,
college-bound scholarship athletes.
Yeah. Okay.
And, they are not going to have their sports career stopped for more than a year. They may have lost their junior year, but they're not going to lose their senior year.
No.
Sure. And, now that cases are going down, those tournaments are starting to come back.
Yeah. Same here at our state. Like, the schools are reopening, everything's kind of coming back again. So there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel, which is wonderful. Yeah.
We have cheerleading this weekend.
Oh, great.
That same cheerleading tournament that turned us down with 60 gallons of milk in the van.
Oh, yes.
This weekend. So we're obviously a little nervous. Like, are you sure?
Tell them the name of the event?
Sure? Okay. I don't want
the
to
name of the event.
Kids. Yeah.
The event is actually called Double Down.
All right. So I got some logistic questions for you guys.
Right.
So you mentioned that you're doing espresso-based drinks on the carts. So that means you're using an espresso machine, or you're doing like AeroPress, or how do you obtain your espresso?
Great. We make a pre-ground espresso drink using the Dedica EC685 by DeLonghi. This is a home prosumer espresso machine that you can get at most of the big box stores like Williams-Sonoma. Okay. It is not a fancy dual boiler Italian machine. However, each cart has that single group machine, and each cart is responsible for typically 2 to 3 espresso drinks per interaction. And that machine has a what you call a thermal block machine. It's not a boiler machine. So it doesn't have the time to recharge like a lot of boiler machines. It's instantly heating little bits of water instead of a big volume of water.
Sure.
Does it produce the same quality of espresso as your Rancho? No. But does it get the job done? Yeah.
Sure.
Our espresso is also pre-ground, which is a decision that we made a long time ago. Our coffee is all fresh roasted here in Knoxville, and we grind it right before we use it for the event. So a lot of people got the grinder on top of the cart, but we do not.
Okay.
It is pre-ground.
There's
Okay.
just not time, is the truth, when you have 100 people in line and you're serving 10,000 plus people. You know?
Yes, I understand. I absolutely understand. And so are you doing your menu, is it kind of an open full bar, or is it drink A, drink B, drink C?
We have our house menu is 24 different drinks, basically hot espresso based lattes,
Okay.
cold brew drinks, and frappuccinos. So it is the full gamut. And we are able to do that through the combination of multiple carts, multiple espresso machines, and each cart also has a steamer separate from the espresso machine.
Oh, interesting. So you have the machine that's just for drawing shots,
Correct.
and then you have a steamer unit
Correct.
So then that means there's two outlets,
Correct. You can do them at the same time.
because
You can pull shots and steam dairy milk at the same time.
that smaller unit isn't
it's a
a
Bellman.
boiler.
Yeah,
Yep,
it's called
okay.
a Bellman stovetop steamer.
Oh, I know those. Those are
Very
so great.
finicky little contraption.
Yes, those are so
They take
great.
a lot of service work to keep them healthy and keep them running right.
Which is 100% him. He
Yeah.
is the fixer of everything.
I'm the maintenance guy around here. So I keep all those gaskets clean and fresh. I keep them all like in tip-top shape. And we use a Bellman steamer for dairy milk. We use the steamer on the machine for alternative milks.
I see. Okay. So the Bellman it's just a little kind of smaller unit that sits usually on a stovetop.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. And so
And
are you using like a jet boil or
Similar.
Okay. Okay.
It's a dual fuel stove that takes either liquid propane in that recognizable little green cylinder,
Yes.
or it can take canned butane.
Yes.
So
Okay.
it depends on the venue. Honestly,
Sure.
some of them are fine just however we do it. They're like, just do it. And we'll use propane. It's a little cheaper.
Yeah.
But some of them are like, well, we use sterno or butane. And I'm like, well, we'll use butane.
Oh, I see. So it depends on kind of the fire marshal and what that particular marshal wants for indoor fuel. So it's an open flame indoors.
Yeah.
Wow. So this is new to me, because I always was under the impression that the open flame required some type of fire suppression, but you're saying no, you do
We
have
actually just carry a fire extinguisher.
just like a BC, like a 2AB.
C.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. The commercial fire extinguishers.
Yep. And we have
Gotcha.
a fire inspection as part of our local inspection, our local permit here
Yeah.
in Knox County, Tennessee, in
Yeah.
the city of Knoxville. It's
Yeah.
actually the city that does our fire inspection.
Okay.
And that was our only requirement for that, was to carry a C fire extinguisher that is inspected on a yearly basis.
Wow. Well, wow. For me, that's mind boggling. Like this is the first time I've been introduced to the concept of butane or propane indoors. I've always tried to do it off of some type of heating element. And then of course, if you do it off of a heating element, the issue is you're hogging up an element that your espresso machine needs.
Yeah.
So you guys are able to sidestep the double element issue because of the butane.
Correct.
How did you come to that? That's really interesting.
Well, my dad, his whole career was in RVs.
Okay.
So unlike the guy that just found the camper and converted it to a coffee stand, I grew up in campers. Every weekend we were camping somewhere.
Sure.
And I saw parts and I saw tricks that I remembered. So when I was building the first one, I remembered seeing a tiny sink in a pop-up camper. And I looked for it. Turns out the local RV supply place Had them in stock, stainless steel, triple wall insulated, little tiny sink. I remember these pumps that I'd see in a boat, that you could, like a cistern pump water, fresh water into the sink. Look for them, local RV place, got them in stock. How many you want? So we built a lot of these carts with RV and boat parts.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
they were built to make what you call a galley, a
Yeah.
small kitchen in an RV or a boat.
Yes.
And the little stoves we use are very small, and the flame is very small.
Yes.
And it is super safe. Like,
Yeah.
used them for years, never had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I'm gonna
awesome.
go ahead and knock on wood though, just in case.
Knock on wood too. So, and then as far as refrigeration, is that part of the unit, or are you just using like a cooler to the side, or?
We're using coolers. So we have any of the venues we work in, we're able to use their walk-in fridge to store like back stock of milk.
Yes.
But every cart has a super cooler with a divider in it. It will hold 4 gallons of milk,
Yes.
and then like an ice bucket, an ice chest. And then we have a backup cooler for ice and a backup cooler for additional perishable milks.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. So you have a cooler that sits behind the coolers, and that's to resupply initially. So if you
Correct.
run out of something in your cooler, you can sneak it from cooler B, and then whoever's on the back line can go run and grab supplies.
Exactly.
Right. Smart. Very smart. Was there a brand of cooler that you went with? Was there something that stood out to you?
We've tried them all, to be honest.
They'll all work.
Mhm.
Okay. Like, don't go out and spend the top name cooler, because our coolers, those coolers brag about holding ice for 9 days.
Yes.
Okay. Y'all have to hold ice for about 12 hours. Okay.
If
It's
that.
not a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They open and close all day long. So you want one that's well made.
Mm-hmm.
You want one that's easy to fix. And you want one that stacks well. Because if you're carrying 4 super coolers to an event, on the way into the event, those super coolers are packed with gear, either blenders or espresso machines for us. We pack them inside those super coolers for safe travel.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, currently we use RTIC brand, RTIC brand coolers.
Yes.
They don't pay us. We're not sponsored.
Sure.
We asked them, they said no. But yeah, they have the key thing is you want a divider in the cooler to separate the milk side and the ice side.
Do you customly make that divider, or do you purchase it?
They sell it.
Okay.
All the super coolers have the ability to put a divider in it.
Okay.
You just have to buy the dividers separately, and you have to add, in our local jurisdiction and almost every other I can think of, a thermometer.
Oh, I see.
Our thermometer goes right on that divider. So when the inspector opens it, they don't have to fish around for the temperature. It's right there on the divider. The ice scoop stays on the ice side. The milk stays on the milk side. If you spill milk inside your cooler, that's a bummer, because you're going to have to go to the kitchen and clean it out and start over again. We have to be very careful about the sanctity of the ice and the milk in those coolers. So we're working in a tight space. We're working fast, but we have to work clean as well.
Yeah. So does your ice sit?
They love
in
they see them and they love them.
Is the ice in a bucket, or is it in that section of the divider?
It's in the section.
I see. Okay. So yeah, once you spill milk, there's cross contamination. You're done.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. That's interesting. Now, was it always that way, or did you use a refrigerator at some point, or did you start off cooler?
Coolers from day one.
Thank you so much. So when I first got started, I remember I knew nothing on coffee trucking, and I still know very little. But when I first got started, I went to the blogs, because that's all there was like the coffee forums. And I remember getting in this discussion with a gentleman who said to me, there is no way I'll ever purchase any coffee from a guy in a cooler. And I remember being so brokenhearted about that, like, oh, and years later, as my business developed, I learned how important they were and how useful and versatile they were. And it became a main staple in my business. Like I now feel very comfortable with coolers. Like I have no question whatsoever. And so for me, I remember it's this eye-opening experience that sometimes the advice given in the forums or the opinions given in the forums are not a reflection of the people, that
And
sometimes sometimes there can be the naysayers out there.
Mhm.
our setup is looked at by dozens of inspectors.
Yeah.
They love those coolers.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, like, and I was worried about it the first time I took it to an inspection, but they see from their perspective, this dude, these folks have bought the most expensive cooler. Like me and my fishing buddies, we know how much them cost. Those are $400 coolers, and they got a show. They got the divider in it and the thermometer in it, and it's all cleanly organized. And this doesn't touch this. They always love it. They think
Yeah.
those are great. They always commend us about what a creative use of that it is. And it's like, those are so well made, those super coolers. They can hold ice and milk for days. Literally, we took a trip across the Southwest US, Southern US, from North Carolina all the way to Southwest Texas and back. And we carried those super coolers. And what were we, 2 weeks on the road?
We did.
2 weeks on the road, they held ice the whole time.
They did.
Yeah.
And we lived out of them.
And my argument for them is that because it's not mechanical refrigeration and because it doesn't require plug-in, you're more temperature stable.
Absolutely.
That's my argument. I'm like, well, it's cold all the time, but the fridge isn't that way. The fridge is only cold when it's plugged in.
Exactly.
Yeah. I really wish I hope that becomes a more commonplace with health inspectors and that they become more comfortable with kind of non-mechanical refrigeration, because I do think it's significantly more stable at temperature regulation than plugging things in, especially for the mobile application.
Absolutely.
The environmental impacts alone, the coolant is so destructive to the environment for mechanical refrigeration. And there can be an argument that says the manufacturing process of these super coolers also has an environmental impact. And it does. The foam that they put in those, the plastic injection molding, all that has a carbon footprint. But we've used those Arctic coolers for 6 years, bro.
Yeah.
6 years. And, we started with like 3, added another, added a couple more. We have, I don't know, 7 or 8 of them now. And they will never die. They will never, they work as good today as they did when they were brand new.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Zero service.
Right. Yeah.
I may have replaced a hinge on 1 or 2 of them, but
yeah, sure.
The parts were like $4 or $5. We're talking zero service to these things.
Mhm.
Sure. Absolutely.
And they stack well.
Yes.
In the van.
Yes.
And in the back, the bar back. And you can transport gear inside of them safely. Shoot, man, we've ridden them on the racks on top of the van before.
Yes,
Wrapped
sure.
them up there with equipment, driven them through a rainstorm, open them up, dry as a bone. They're designed to hold their water, right?
Yeah.
So they hold the elements from getting in as well as elements getting out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. All right, so I got a few more minutes. I wanted to talk coffee. So you folks, excuse me, use a locally roasted coffee.
We do.
So it's a home roaster in town, and not a home roaster, but a local roaster. Thank you.
Right.
And so what beans are we using? Are we doing like African beans, Central American beans? How did you find this guy or gal, or how did the coffee come about?
Yes to everything. Before COVID, we had maybe 5 varieties that we were roasting. And part of that quarantine plan was to expand our coffee line. So now we have 19, I believe.
20 varieties.
Oh, 20
in a
in
week.
like a week.
We have one more coming out in a week.
Yes.
Wow.
So we have,
and it's still growing.
It's still growing. All kinds of coffee, all kinds, from single origin to flavored coffee to decafs to, I mean, the beans are from all over. What was our original? I guess it was the two-tired espresso.
Yeah, our first roast was an espresso roast that is a blend, and it's a traditional dark Italian espresso roast. And we call it the two-tired espresso. Hence the 2 tires of a bicycle, and being too tired, that's the pun. Then we added a couple single origins. My wife and I visited Costa Rica. We fell in love with Tarrazú coffee from central Costa Rica. We spent a week there learning all about the manufacturing and the farming of Tarrazú coffee. We brought a Tarrazú coffee online and started roasting a single origin medium Tarrazú. Then we added a, what was next? I don't even remember the order.
So you're roasting your own at this point?
We partner with a local roaster.
I see.
It's all roasted on his equipment to our specifications.
Ah.
So
okay.
We private label our own line of coffee.
Absolutely. So you're doing the sourcing, and then he's doing the mechanical stuff. He just, hey, I want it at this, and he does his craft.
Some of both, actually.
Yep. Okay.
He actually owns 2 cafes in town.
Okay.
The roasting business was originally designed to supply the cafes, but and I'm not going to speak for him, but we've been partners for a long, long time since we began.
Mm-hmm.
And the cost and the upkeep of roasting equipment was more than was justified by 2 cafes. And so he started seeking wholesale customers.
Sure.
I came along right at the very beginning of that and became originally a wholesale customer using his brand of coffee beans.
Sure.
His varieties, his blends.
Yes.
But over the time, we discussed introducing our own that was private labeled. Years have gone by. We've continued to expand that line. Now we do things that just are exclusive to us, like 10 different varieties of flavored coffees, which is something that a lot of people in our area don't do, but we have an all natural flavoring process.
Okay.
And a great supplier for all natural flavors. And we're 100% in on all natural flavored coffees. They're very subtle. They're not as shockingly flavored as some of the others that you've had in the past.
Sure.
And they're really, really delicious. And
do you have one that's popular?
On organic coffee.
Do you have one that's popular?
Ooh, I would say all time the most popular is called Devil's Food, and it is a triple chocolate flavored coffee.
Oh.
And we have we've had several artists that depict us as the owners on the label. So I don't know why she thought I would be the devil on Devil's Food. And adversely, the second most popular
Devil's Advocate. Yes,
maybe that's it. But then she drew on the second most popular, Angel Food. Why is he the angel on Angel Food? But those flavored coffees are incredibly popular.
Are they really? Okay.
Very.
And what was the Angel Food? So that the Devil's Food is a triple chocolate. The Angel's Food is
it's a vanilla cream. So
okay.
Yes. And they're both roasted. Really, all of our flavors are roasted medium, and so they're perfect. Colombian Castilla, then they are perfect for cold brew as well. So lots of our customers brew them hot, but a lot of them brew cold as well.
We're in the South. We do we cater our bean business to our customers. And we noticed in 5.5 years of drink services that 75% of our business was iced and frozen drinks made with our Ethiopian Yirga Chef cold brew. Yeah. And so we of course packaged. One of the things that she did was create the world's best cold brew kit. and it is a pound of our Ethiopian Yirgacheffe coffee, coarse ground for cold brewing.
Okay.
Includes a Bodum bean French press style cold brewer.
Okay.
And that you can buy from our website. It brews over a gallon of cold brew at home. And then you can try the Ethiopian again if you love it, or try the devil's food or the angel food. And all of it is catered to brew cold brew in your home fridge.
So it has like
our customers did over quarantine.
The French press comes, well, not French press, but the apparatus to brew the cold brew, the already pre-ground coarse Ethiopian bean.
Yep.
And then is there a recipe guide, or is it
We send instructions. 'cause
instructions?
Life is hard. Coffee shouldn't be.
Right.
So we always send instructions, and then all of our recipes are completely open to the public. We are literally an open book. So
she's a recipe machine on social media. She has hundreds of recipes, mostly that start on her TikTok channel. That's where she got famous, is on TikTok. Mrs. Pedaljava on TikTok. Hundreds of coffee recipes. And she'll, you need that German chocolate cake syrup. Guess what? Pedaljava.com. Head on over there. The pump comes with it. We sell all the supplies for making those recipes on our website.
Did you say pedaljava.com?
yes,
That's it, my
Okay,
man.
I'll make sure to get that into the link too.
Yeah, let me spell it. PEDALJAVA.com. Y'all head
Okay.
over there now. We have coffee, we have supplies, we have gear for making coffee at home, and hundreds of recipes for using those supplies.
and a mostly good attitude.
Mostly
We have a
good.
mostly good attitude.
Man, guys, Dallas, thank you so much. You guys have been amazing. This has been a really wonderful interview.
We are
so
huge
many good
fans.
things.
We love everything Green Joe has done. When we came into the business, you were already an influencer in the field. And we saw your videos on YouTube, and we read your articles and your ebooks. And we knew immediately that this was a guy who's seen all sides of the mobile industry. And I'm not trying to kiss your butt, because this is all true. You've done carts, you've done trucks, you've done cafe work. You, besides being a former paramedic, you know more about this business than just about anyone.
That's true.
So when you speak on the forums, I hope people respect that as an expert. And I hope people look at me as someone who's standing on the shoulders of people like you, Vincent. So thank you for having us. We're happy to be a part of your podcast.
Absolutely.
And y'all reach out to us if you have questions, or if you just want to support us. The most important thing to do,
Buy coffee.
pedaljava.com. Try it out. And Vincent, take a look at our website. Tell me what looks good to you, and I'll drop some in the mail to you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so
3-day
much.
priority
Wonderful.
mail on all our coffee. We ship it within 3 days to your door anywhere in the country.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. I will take you up on that.
Awesome.
I'm gonna try that devil food. I think that's the one for me.
Yeah, it's good. It is.
All right, guys. Thanks again so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys take care.
You too.